The following is a Papi Chulo Radio original program. The views and opinions expressed in the commentaries and/or interviews in the following program are solely those of the individuals and are not views of Papi Chulo Radio, its parent, affiliate, or subsidiary companies.
Welcome to Are You Afraid 1984, the unofficial American Horror Story 1984 podcast, a PapiChuloRadio.com original series. Papi Chulo Radio, pop culture on demand. Today is Thursday, October 10th, 2019, and I'm your host, Jeffrey Arauz. During this podcast, we're going to recap, review, and dissect the latest episode of the FX series, American Horror Story 1984. Please welcome my co-hosts, Madison Fitzpatrick.
Hey guys, welcome back.
And Vinnie Hatcher.
I'm ready to slash dance. I hope you are too.
Let's jump into our recap of Season 9, Episode 4, which was titled True Killers and aired October 9th, 2019. Here's the official synopsis of the episode. Mr. Jingles closes in on the one who got away as the counselors rally to escape Camp Redwood. So I want to get everyone's initial reaction to this episode. Let's start off with you, Maddie Fitz.
I really like this episode. It was a little laggy to me, but so many things happened, and it was really, really enjoyable. One of my favorite characters, I think, almost got killed in the most interesting way, so we'll talk about that. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. What about you, Vinny?
This was yet another episode of moments of breakneck speed, but also a little bit of lag. But overall, I didn't notice it as much because I really, really liked this episode and the revelations, the pacing of various reveals that we got, and some insights into other characters. So I really, really enjoyed it. I'm very excited to talk about it.
Awesome. Very cool. And I guess I'm on the hype train as well because I liked the episode a lot as well. It was just so good. Like the revelations were fantastic. The gore was really good. The smaller, more calm moments were really fascinating. And we got confirmation to some things that we've been talking about. We got something very interesting happen at the very tail end. It was a lot, but it was really, really good. So before we get into a thorough recap of the latest episode of American Horror Story 1984, here's our announcer with a few special announcements.
Binge listen to your favorite Papi Chulo Radio podcasters discussing some of your favorite television shows. Visit PapiChuloRadio.com/podcasts for a complete list of all the podcasts that we produce. You will get up-to-date information on whether the podcast is currently releasing new episodes or if it's on hiatus. You will also be able to click a link to either take you to Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or the Papi Chulo Radio archives to download the podcast. To binge listen to your favorite Papi Chulo Radio podcasts, visit PapiChuloRadio.com/podcasts. Would you like to be one of the podcasters on this podcast discussing your favorite television show? Email talent@PapiChuloRadio.com. We are always looking for new voices to add to our collection of podcasts. To become a co-host, you must be at least 18 years old. You must be comfortable sharing your opinions. And you must be comfortable using Skype. There's no podcast experience required. So if you think you have what it takes to be a Papi Chulo Radio on-air personality, email talent@PapiChuloRadio.com. We look forward to hearing from you.
This is a Poppy Chulo Radio special announcement. PoppyChuloRadio.com is currently looking to expand its web presence, and we're looking for your help. If you're a fan of Poppy Chulo Radio and its signature series, please visit GoFundMe.com/PoppyChuloRadio and help us with our campaign. Every dollar amount donated will be improving the Poppy Chulo Radio experience and making it more interactive and user-friendly. We thank you in advance for your support. This has been a Poppy Chulo Radio special announcement. We now return you to our regularly scheduled programming.
Thanks, announcer. So, before we get into the actual episode, there was an interesting theory that I read online that I figured I'd share with both of you, because we've talked about a version of this theory, but we haven't talked about this actual theory. And I don't know if any of you had actually seen this theory, so that's why I will bring it up and see what you all think of it. So, we've been talking about the idea of that this season they could be filming a movie. And the thing that I read online, someone theorized about it. It was like this whole article, and I was like, this is fascinating. They were like, well, what if it is a movie? And what if the person that's playing Brooke is Madison Montgomery? Because remember, she was an actress before she started tending Miss Robichaux's in Coven. So what if this is her acting? And this is, when was Coven? Coven was...
Season 3?
Season 3, what year would that be? Like 2000 and... Season 3, this is season 9, so 6 years ago, like about 2013. So, like, let's say this season takes place in 2010 or something like that. And it's her filming this movie of the 80s. I still like the idea of, like, staying in the 80s, but if they were to do it a movie like that, if this was, like, the filming of a movie, if it starred Madison Montgomery, I think I would be kind of fine with it. That would be kind of interesting. It would be a way to tie in the Coven season without necessarily tying the Coven season in. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wouldn't be like a continuation like Apocalypse was. So I don't know if any of you like that theory. I read it online and I was like, you know what? That's a little twist on they're shooting a movie.
I feel like I mentioned this in one of the previous episodes, because I did read this one. And I don't know, because I think we talked about how I really was okay with it, like, not being connected to the other seasons, because I've been really enjoying this unique environment and atmosphere. And it would be cool because I am like #Madison fanboy. I love her. Emma Roberts, when she's in full-on bitch mode, is my absolute favorite Emma Roberts ever. And I find myself missing that part of her character this season. But at the same time, I worry that if we go that route, it's too soon, and it's too desperate to, like, link it back to a season that was the denouement of, like, 9 previous seasons, or however many. I think it would be nice if we could have something separate, but at the same time, I'm warring with the side of me that loves Madison. But I think at the end of the day, it would have to be done really, really, really to the nth degree well for me to buy it.
Okay. I can't remember if you mentioned the Madison thing, but I do know we've talked at length about it potentially being a movie. Madison, would you like for them to sort of tie it into Coven a little bit like that, sort of tangentially, by having Madison be the star of the movie if they are going the route of this being a movie production?
I wouldn't like it to be a movie production, but if they were going to, like, tie it in, Brooke being Madison Montgomery would be, like, the bombest way to do it. But I also think that they could do it in the slightest way. Like, I don't think that they would have to be like, like, 2 episodes left and it's like all of a sudden we're back at, like, the Coven house. Like, I don't think that they need to do that, but, like, just a subtle hint, something like in Asylum, what we did with I'm not going to remember her name, but the Pinhead.
Oh, yeah. I can't remember the name, but I know what you're talking about. Pepper?
Yeah, Pepper. Something simple like that where you're like, wait, is that Pepper from this? Or do you know what I mean? Like, like
Yeah.
something subtle, almost like that, where it's like you kind of know that it's from the other episodes, like the other seasons, but it's not solely, held, like it doesn't have to go further than that.
Oh
Like it
my God,
just
you know what would be awesome? Is if at the very last episode we stay in 1984 and then the credits roll, but they're the credits for the movie and it has a cast list and it says Brooke, played by Madison Montgomery. That would be an awesome slight way
like
to do
yeah,
it.
that would be like a really cool way to do it. But like I hope that it's not a movie, but if they are gonna do that, then that would be a cool way to do it.
Okay. Well, I feel like I have cracked the code. So I did a little cheating, I will say. As the person that's modding this podcast, moderating it, I do I mean, there's a website, anybody can use it to read the press releases for upcoming episodes as well as episode titles and that kind of thing. And I was trying my best not to read anything about it, but as you know, the episode 100, the 100th episode of American Horror Story is approaching, I did want to read like what the press release was going to be, you know, in particular because, as you all have noticed, when I read the synopsis of the episode, it's from the press release, and the synopsis really is nothing. I mean, it's like a sentence or two, and it's hella vague, and it doesn't really give any detail as to what the episode is, and so I was like, you know what, let me read what the synopsis is, because it's probably going to be hella vague. And I will say, it looks like, unless all of the synopses of like the next couple of episodes are fake, which networks have done that before. You know, there are some shows that they release, you know, maybe a synopsis that doesn't have necessarily everything that happens in the episode and that sort of thing. But it appears as if we will be in 1984. It does not appear as if this season is a film production. So that theory, I feel like, will be completely squashed within the next couple of episodes. For the 100th episode, I won't really go into what each synopsis says, but for the 100th episode, I have no idea what they're doing, because it looks like what they're saying is that it's the fallout of what happened during that night at the camp. So that night being these first 5 episodes of the season. Episode 100 is episode 6. Then for episode 7, we're going to see a lost chapter in this camp's history, which maybe that might be. Initially, I thought it was going to be like what happened the night that Margaret went batshit crazy, which maybe we still might get. But I think what we might also get is a little bit more of the mythos of the camp as to like why there are ghosts and that sort of thing. Sort of like how we got a little bit of an understanding of like why the murder house is the way it is and why the Hotel Cortez is the way it is, as well as why the grounds of the Roanoke house is the way it is. We might learn in that episode why Camp Redwood is an area for like supernatural haunts, I guess is the appropriate term. And then it looks like the final couple episodes of the season, because they've only released the synopsis for episode 8, it looks like it's going to be like there are new people that want to continue the legacy of Camp Redwood, aka Murder, Death, Kill. And it's our people trying to stop them, or at least maybe the good ones, the ones that survived this. I don't know who survives this, these first 5 episodes, but it'll be them trying to stop a new breed of terror. Which, not gonna lie, I like all of that. I think it's fascinating. We'll still be in the 1980s. I don't know if for the final 3 episodes we'll have a time jump, so maybe we'll get into present day and you know, we'll see the survivors aged up a little bit. Clearly the ones that are going to be ghosts will still be ghosts. Maybe we'll have some good ghosts that'll help team survivors. Maybe we'll have some bad ghosts that will try to bring more mayhem and murder. I guess we're going to have to wait and see when it comes to that. But it sounds interesting, and it sort of checks off everything that we've been wanting about this season. You know, we've been wanting this season to be real. We've been wanting the 1980s motif to linger on, and it looks like it will a little bit. Whether we have a time jump at the end or not for that final section, I'm kind of cool with all of it. Any thoughts on what I discovered, and does it give both of you a little bit of a sigh of relief that we aren't headed into the movie route?
It really does, and I'm very intrigued because even in this episode, which we'll talk about a little bit later, you know, a little breadcrumb was dropped at the very end that kind of gives us a new direction that we could be going in as far as the supernatural. So I'm very intrigued hearing what you just said about what's going to happen and where we might be going. And I'm also really excited for the 100th episode because they could also, as much as we theorize, just completely knock us in our asses with a surprise.
Absolutely. Right now, I'm very underwhelmed by what the 100th episode says. Just because it's like the survivors, you know, sort of have to deal with the consequences of what happened. And I'm like, that's going to be the 100th episode of American Horror Story? Clearly, they have to have something up their sleeve. So I'm not going to judge it just yet. But I'm here for it. I'm here for whatever they give us. But I am really glad that it's not a movie that it does seem like it's real, or at least I should say, quote unquote real. And what we're watching is not going to be something that's going to be washed away, which I like. Even though, I mean, I think a lot of the theories that are online that it's a movie is because, I mean, they're doing a really great job with the slasher theme. I mean, they're giving us the typical slasher type of characters, you know, the virgin, the jock, and that sort of thing. So I see why people are, or at least why the internet has been heavily leaning into the fact that this could be the filming of a movie. But at least from the press releases that I found, it does not seem like they're going to be going that route, and I'm really excited by that, to be quite honest. Maddie, what about you? Before we get into the actual episode, any thoughts on any of that?
Honestly, like, I don't really like to theorize that much, or, you know, like, it doesn't really matter to me just because it is American Horror Story, and like I've said before, they twist things and turn things any which way they like and whenever they please. So I kind of just go with the flow and kind of wait and see. Like, I'm not too upset with the movie thing, but I also love Madison and just that character, so I would love her to come back as Brooke, because I find this Brooke is just like super whiny and like typical damsel in distress type girl. But yeah, Madison's where it's at. So I don't know, but we'll see.
That is true. Madison is where it's at, right, Madison?
Hell yes.
Hashtag Madison.
Yes. That's so funny.
But I agree. I think that the more that this season is going, like, Brooke is going from being someone that I was viewing as strong coming out of whatever she came out of into I'm starting to feel a little bit like I did with Sarah Paulson in Cult.
Oh, fascinating. Okay. All right. Where do we begin? Because, man, good grief. It's
everywhere.
Like, I know. It's like, where do we begin? Because it's like, I want to dive deep into, like, the Benji of it all. But it's I want to dive deep into the reveal of the connection. And so I guess we'll go sort of in order, because that reveal was fascinating, and we had this long discussion during our previous podcast about it, and we were wrong, but we were right, if you know what I'm saying. Like, we were in the right direction.
I do.
We just didn't hit the right nail on the head, but we were close. We were very close. So let's talk about two revelations. Number one, how Richard Ramirez knows Brooke, because that was the major cliffhanger in the previous episode. And we also learn who the her was. Like, you haven't killed her yet. Why is she still alive? And it turns out that was Brooke. which we kind of guessed, but we were still confused as to why. And we had a theory, and we'll discuss it right now. So during a coke-fueled aerobics, or was it man aerobics? Something like, whatever she called it, session, this midnight aerobic session with all men. Richard Ramirez stumbles in. Brooke is in charge of the class. He was drawn in by the music with a rebel yell and everything. And one of the students curses Montana. Did I say Brooke the first time around? I meant Montana. Brooke is on the brain because of this whole situation. Montana is... it curses out Montana. Montana kicks him out as a means to show Montana that I guess he likes her. Richard Ramirez ends up killing the guy. It turns Montana on. And then she goes into, like, would you kill again for me? And he's like, yeah. They have sex. I don't know if I needed to say that. But she's like, well, I need you to kill this girl that ruined my life. She ended up getting the love of my life killed. No, not the love of her life. Sorry, her brother killed. Her brother that she loved a lot. And she knows that she had sex with him, and this is what led to the murder, death, kill at the wedding. Yes, I'm talking about Brooke's wedding. So apparently, Montana's brother is Brooke's fiance's best man, Sam. What the hell, everybody? Yes. Let's talk about this, because we got the Richard Ramirez connection with Montana. We got why Montana wants Brooke dead. Madison, you weren't here last week, so you weren't here for the theorization of the moment. But what did you think of these reveals? And then I'll get your hot take on it, Vinny.
Totally. Kind of didn't surprise me. Like when she said, "Why haven't you killed her yet?" Totally thought about Brooke immediately, just because Montana got so close to Brooke so fast in this season, especially, like just, like, I'm not lesbo, I'm just, overly friendly. Like, I don't think so. It looks like you're trying to get somewhere. So obviously we knew that, like, she was already kind of out for something. We just didn't know what, even after, like, she kissed her and everything. Very, very, something was a little off. And the fact that she's with Richard Ramirez was hilarious. I like it. I like this whole couple. I find it fascinating. It's like, it's not our first murder couple. Like we did have in Coven, we had Jessica Lange and that axe murder guy. We had them together. That was a very interesting couple. So it's not the first time we've seen a murder couple before, but I like them, and I like how she's out for Brooke, and it explains why he just followed her to and knew where she was. It explains everything. So yeah, I didn't mind it.
That wasn't really a great murder couple. They could have done so much. Yeah, they could have done so much more with the Axeman, and that was probably,
but I'm saying
for me.
It's not the first time that we've seen it before.
That for me was a sort of a miss that season, unfortunately. Okay, all right, I like it. Vinny, what about you? So we talked about this. For you, Madison, since you were not here, we were sort of talking about, like, maybe she had a connection, she being Montana, with the fiance. So the fact that it was the best man, I think, made it almost extra juicy. Wouldn't you say so, Vinny?
Woo!
Yes. Woo!
Yeah, you're right. Like, if this was a nail in the wall, we hit the hammer so close to it, there are holes in the wall around it. Because I think I specifically mentioned, like, how I thought she might be the sister of the fiance or a spurned lover. So we were, like, adjacent. This whole connection, okay, so I grew up reading V.C. Anders novels. I love them. I know it's weird, but If VC Andrews sniffed some coke and wrote a murder mystery, I feel like she would come up with a relationship like this. Like when Montana walks into the locker room and discovers the gift that Ramirez left for her, and she's like, "I'm gonna slap you, but then I'm gonna be so moved because this is the most effed up thing someone has ever done for me, and now we're gonna have sex in the blood." Like, okay,
Lick my bloody toes.
bloody toes. Yes, it was twisted. It was not something that I expected. Like I expected that something was going to happen to the person that it happened to in that locker room, but I didn't expect that it was going to be as intricate and as complex a display of admiration for her that it was. And I honestly was, last week I was kind of lukewarm about the Montana reveal, but after this I was, as Jeff would say, I was very much here for it, and I actually really enjoyed it. The way that it played out the rest of the episode was a little bit hit or miss for me, 50-50, but I did walk out of the episode kind of liking where it all ended up and where Madison is now. Or, I'm sorry, where Brooke, no, goddamn, Montana. See, we're all doing it now, Jeff.
That's funny. Good grief. Yes, it was a great reveal. I like their connection. I will co-sign with what Vinny just said, that I might have been a little sort of like, maybe a little, this is too much with the connections and that sort of thing when it happened in the previous episode. But after this opening scene and even like just their interaction throughout the episode, I was like, you know what? I like it. I am, as I would say, I'm here for it. It's awesome. It's fascinating. The dynamic is really interesting, and it's working for me. So yeah, this was a really, really great just sequence, period, because it gave us a lot of information, and it was just fascinating to watch. And they work really well together. So yeah, I liked it a lot. So, okay. Well, yeah, and also the reveal, the whole sister thing was really good too. Like, I love that we were really close to to actually figuring that out, and yeah, that was freaking awesome. Once she sort of explained it, I was like, okay, and it all made sense. I don't know if, do we think, and I'm going to ask this question just because it keeps on getting brought up, do we think, like, after all of this now, because I know that I asked this, like, when we saw the flashback, do we think Brooke had sex with Sam?
No.
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 Okay.
I feel like that would be too obvious, and I'm kind of looking forward to if there's a moment where, because obviously, not spoilers, but the promo that we saw for, I think I was about to say promotion, but I said promo instead, but you know what I mean. The vignette in the promotional trailer for next week. I know. I can talk really. Yes. Oh, yeah, the promo. I'm looking forward to the moment where Montana's like, "No, you're a slut. You went and sexed up my bro," and she's like, "No, I really didn't." And maybe some of the wind is taken out of Montana's sails, and this highfalutin scheme that she put into play is not as accurate as she thought.
Very nice. The promo. I like it. Or the promo.
Yeah. Or like on South Park when they say biopic instead of biopic.
Oh, yes. Some people do actually say that.
Interesting.
I know, not to judge.
What?
Hashtag still judging.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, so let's move on. Moving right along. So a theory that we did have was squashed, though, like big time. And this one kind of broke my heart, because when we talked about it, Vinny, it just sounded so good. And even though we said, you know, it's another one of those, like, oh, really? Does there need to be a connection? But I really liked how you sold it for me, Vinny. But then it wasn't there. With our...
I was vindicated.
Yes, our lunch lady. So you weren't here, Madison, but Vinny was like, what if, like, our lunch lady was somehow connected to Mr. Jingles, and she had been the one that created...
Come on.
That she had been the one that created the pit and that sort of thing. It turns out the pit, I think we kind of got confirmation later on. We'll discuss that when we get to it as to who created the pit. But the lunch lady was not connected. So Xavier goes to Birdie while she's making sandwiches for, yes, I said sandwiches, for the kids at the camp for the next day, because they'll be arriving in a couple hours. We have to remember it's the same damn night. They're arriving in a couple hours.
And this is my theory also confirmed that this whole thing is going to like be dragged out in like one night.
Oh yeah, we talked about it. I think we've been confirmed that, Maddie. Where have you been? No, let me stop. She wasn't here.
Just
She wasn't here
yes,
last
you're right,
time.
Madison. Yes, gosh.
Oh, okay, fine. Yes, Madison, you're 100% right.
See, I told you.
Yes,
Wow, so smart.
I know. She's so adorable. But was that the word that I was really thinking? So,
Yes.
so the lunch lady's, she's making sandwiches, and Xavier's like, "We need to leave. He's here. Do you not realize what's been going on?" And the jingling keys approach. He hides under the table. There's this whole sequence where they're catching up because we learn that she used to work there and they knew each other, and he's like, "Why did you come back?" And she was like, "Well, I could see that Margaret was still sort of surviving from that night. She was still tortured, and if this was a way to sort of help her finally overcome that night, then that's why I'm here." And she makes him a peanut butter and jelly sandwich without the crust, because he don't like no damn crust. I don't really like the crust either, but I wouldn't really chop it off. Anyway, I'm lazy. And then Xavier, I don't know what that was in his hand. Was it a flashlight, I think? Right?
Yeah, as a flashlight. Yeah.
He drops the flashlight because that's what they usually do in a slasher movie. He gets caught. There's a scuffle. He gets tossed into the, I feel like Vinny would know the exact term of that large style oven. What do you call that?
Is it a convection oven?
It would be, but isn't there a special name for like the large ovens that they use in like restaurants? Or is
Yes, my boyfriend who works in a restaurant told me that it is specifically and formally called an oven.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, there you go.
Industrial-sized.
Industrial-sized oven. That's what it is. And so he gets tossed into an industrial-sized oven, and Birdie, well, she gets chopped up, but she's still alive because Xavier wakes up in the oven. He's screaming. No one can hear. Birdie sort of musters the final strength that she has to remove the ladle from the handle that's like blocking the door from the oven from opening. He's freed, and she basically asks him to mercy kill her because that's what you do for a friend. And so he does.
I was literally like about to cry.
Aw. And
So
Xavier
emotional.
is also now he's extra crispy, if you know what I mean. And I feel like you do. So Vinny, talk to me about this, because it was a good theory. It did not pan out, but what did you think of what we saw? And what did you think of everything we saw with the burning flesh and everything?
Oh, God. I was grabbing my opera pearls. I literally was, because, when in the trailer last week, which is kind of what fed into my theory of there being a connection, we saw that scene of Birdie making the sandwiches, but then I think it actually like panned over to a scene of Brooke. So I walked away from that trailer thinking like Birdie was having something to do with like cooking Brooke or like about to cut Brooke or something. But even without the Brooke segment, like I got the impression that Birdie was about to be like, I'm one badass bitch. I'm either with the killer or I'm about to kick his ass. I really thought it was kind of fascinating how, all this murder has been happening in this camp, and she's just literally sitting in there like nothing warms a heart and makes him not miss home like a bologna sandwich. It was like just this like totally wholesome moment. And when he was trying to convince her and she just was, all right, this is not going to go the way that I thought it was. And I immediately knew she was going to die. Like in that moment, as soon as I felt the context of the situation, my mourning process began, because Birdie was probably one of my favorite characters this season so far. She kind of filled that void that Kathy Bates not being on the show, playing a crazy person, has given me. When it actually went down, I thought that Birdie suddenly deteriorated into showing that all the machismo is a bad word. The toughness, the exterior that she had was kind of more fragile than I initially thought. And there was this fear that was really, really well done on the actress's part. Like, she walked the line of, I'm about to shit my pants, but I'm going to pretend that I'm not and make him a PBJ sandwich. It was really, really well played out by the actress. And as it all played through, I rooted for her to come back alive and just punch him in the face or do something. And I actually, I'm pretty desensitized. I've watched the goriest horror movies you can imagine, and the scene where you actually see Birdie getting stabbed by him, it happened so fast, but if I remember correctly, it was like a zoomed in shot of her torso and the knife going in repeatedly. It was very graphic, and I actually kind of twitched and like, ooh, that grabbed my pearls for a second. And I was like, oh God, this is no, she didn't deserve this. I was sad. I was very sad to see Birdie go. And then when our little porn actor got shoved into the oven to become a porn souffle, and he had I thought it was hilarious how he was like, I'm just going to lift my leather jacket over my head for protection. Not the smartest thing, but when you don't have anything else to cover you, probably no other choice. I thought he was going to die, and I was literally sitting there talking to my boyfriend. I'm like, are they really going to kill Cody Fern right now? Because I had this fear that like everything's been so breakneck that him dying was going to be a sign that, okay, next episode or very soon, the big reveal is going to happen. It's a movie, it's a contest, it's Madison, whatever. But then I did not expect it. Birdie just has that swan song and just scares the bejesus out of him. Has this like almost slow motion, like, I'm going to get the ladle. Wait, no, I'm not. Yeah, I am. No, I'm not. Yeah, I am. No, I'm not. Okay, I got it. And the moment between Xavier and her, this is going to make me sound really, really twisted and probably reading things into it that I shouldn't, but calling back to that relationship that he had with her when they first met with the whole, oh, you couldn't handle this, boy. Like, there was an intimacy between the characters. There was this, like, I don't want to necessarily say romantic, but there was almost like a motherly and familial relationship between the two that I really palpably felt in that moment. Because if you think about it, he's only known her for barely a day, and already he is just like, I don't want to kill you, I can't. And I got the feeling that this woman he barely knew already meant a lot to him as a paragon of some kind of virtue or something he admired. Maybe he doesn't have a mother in his life, I don't know, but it gave depth to the character of Xavier that I had not really attributed previously. So when it was all said and done and he actually went through with it and Birdie died, I am not ashamed to say that I cried a little bit. But overall, it was a very passionate, very strong portion of this episode. And as much as I hate her being gone, well played, Ryan Murphy. Well played.
Look at Vinny getting emotional over Birdie. I like it. I will say, just thinking of this season and thinking of the cast and the characters, if we were to have had Kathy Bates on this season, I feel like she would have been Birdie, and she would have been awesome too. Like, Birdie has been fantastic, but I think Kathy Bates would have been like the Birdie character, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss Kathy Bates as well. But we have a fantastic new cast. Maddie, what about you? What did you think of everything Xavier and Birdie?
I don't even want to talk about it. Okay. I'm just kidding. It was so hard to watch. I totally agree with you, Vince. Like, when you saying that, like, there was a connection between them, I totally agree with you. Just because, like, I don't know, like, her doing everything she could to save him, like, she really wanted, like, not just him, but, like, she wanted to save the kids again. And, even if she could just save one this time type thing. And, him killing her like that was so heartbreaking. And, like, Birdie's face, just you seeing her face, like, completely bludgeoned. And, yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible to watch. And Cody did such a good job in that acting moment, I think. And him being locked in the oven, I was like, no. I thought the exact same thing as you. I'm like, they can't kill him already. Like, I know they've already killed, one kind of, like, main character that we've been seeing, but they can't kill him. Like, he's, like, one of the few people from the actual American Horror Story crew that we have. Like, you can't just kill him off in the fourth episode. Come on. So um, yeah, I would be totally at a loss. And the fact that he got burnt like that is like one of the worst ways to go. So even my dad came down for a bit, like watching the episode with me, and he was like, "Oh no, is he? Oh God!" I'm like, "Yeah, he's in an oven." Yeah, like the worst ways. So I'm happy that he got out. Um, Definitely was one of the worst scenes I think I've ever watched in American Horror Story. Well done.
Yeah, it was hella gross. Like, how do you come back from that? Like, you get Hansel and Greteled. Like,
And even when he saw himself in the reflection, like that was heartbreaking. The way that he like just viewed himself, like being like, how is he ever going to be an actor or like a model now with that face? Like, do you know what I mean? If it doesn't heal properly, like obviously, but you know, he's probably thinking that now, like, oh my God, I'm ugly. Like, I can never be an actor or a model now. You know what I mean? Like, his dreams were just crushed by seeing his reflection.
mm,
So, like, I'll still take him. Like, it's okay. Like, I'm good. Like, we can be together. But he'll never be an actor.
extra crispy. Extra crispy. Good grief. Oh, I want to ask a question, but it just popped into my head, and I'm like, should I ask it now or should I ask it at the end? I feel like I'm going to ask it at the end. But it's a good one. So stay tuned. That's called a teaser, folks. Yeah, okay, that's gonna be a good question to ask, especially since both of you aren't prepared to answer it. I like it. So moving right along. So we get confirmation in this episode as to who created the pit that we saw. Vinny, with his keen eye for wood carving, figured out that it was a fresh pit and fresh stakes. And as Brooke escapes from where not Rita has hid her away, in a very easy way, I'm like, not Rita, you know how to make a trap, but you don't know how to like keep someone tied up or something like that. They were like, what would you call that thing? I know there's a proper name for that swinging thing with the spikes. I feel like there's a name for that.
Bear
Oh,
trap?
yeah. I know what you're talking about. It's the pendulum trap thing.
Yes, the pendulum trap. Maddie, did you call that a bear trap?
No.
Because the bear trap is the thing that chomps.
I know.
Okay.
I don't hunt, okay?
It's okay. She's just takes cute
It's a
pictures in the
brook
wilderness.
trap.
Okay, there
It's
you
a
go.
brook trap, okay? It's a brook trap.
Yeah, that's what you meant to say. You do take really nice selfies in the forest. She just doesn't know how to hunt. Right?
Nope.
Yeah. So there are bear traps all over the place, and this, that, or the other. And it turns out that it was not Rita, aka Donna Chambers. Don't call her Rita. She's the one that created those traps, probably to help trigger Jingles, as well as to make sure that no one escapes. Because remember, she's a psychologist, y'all, and she is doing a study, and she's trying to see if Jingles will take a captured prey or if he likes to hunt on his own. You know, it's this whole type of thing. Let's talk about Donna, because Donna is so fucking crazy in the best way possible. Like, it is, like, she's so crazy, she doesn't even know she's crazy. And that's the type of crazy I like, because she could just start spitting all this batshit shit, and she thinks she sounds official as fuck. And I'm like, you are nutsy cuckoo, lady. But I love her because she's just so fucking crazy. Maddie, what did you think of Not Rita and her interaction with Brooke, and getting a little bit of the 411 as to what she's been up to with this whole psychological experiment that she has created?
I thought it was a little interesting. Like, the experiment is quite interesting because I wonder if any point in the 70s or anything like that, or in the 80s, if somebody actually tried to do that, because there has been like experiments like that, like the Stanford prison experiment. There's been, multiple experiments like that before, but I wonder if like it was actually performed with like a serial killer type way. So I don't know. I like that whole possibility or project that she's doing. But obviously like it's insane and would never ever be done. But I wonder if it was done back then when things weren't necessarily oh no, that's fine. That sounds great. So I like her, and I like how she's a little cuckoo crazy, and I just wonder if her and Mr. Jingles actually have a conversation soon, because I would like to see if, like, now that he knows that he wasn't the one who killed everybody initially, I wonder if he knows, or like when they have a conversation, if he goes, yeah, but I didn't kill anybody, like it wasn't me, like you're studying the wrong person. You know what I mean? So it also changes her thing now that she has to study, what's her face? Our pigtailed girl. I want to call her Margaret. I'm like, I want to call her Mona or something, and it's not it. Yeah, so Margaret, like, she should be studying Margaret, not Mr. Jingles. So I want to see that conversation happen. But yeah, her with Brooke was pretty funny. Brooke is obviously still a damsel in distress.
Shout out to Mona from Who's the Boss. She was the boss. Just an FYI. Okay, you went into stuff that we haven't even gotten to yet, Madison. Aren't you a journalist? You should know not to do that. But Vinny.
I'm just saying.
Vinny, go ahead.
All I can think of is summing that up is like, welcome to Mindhunter, lightning round. Like, because I also watch that show on Netflix, and I'm just like, okay, if the FBI really wanted to study serial killers and they were like, what's the best way? Let's just take John Wayne Gacy and put him out in the woods with a bunch of teenage boys and see what happens. Yeah, obviously this is someone who, because I think she touches on the fact that it's been a struggle for her and she has to work hard. Because I can imagine, being an African-American female in that field back in the 70s, we're still coming out of the time where not only are women still struggling to have the female empowerment movement, really take hold, but we're also dealing with, we're not that many years ago from the civil rights movements back then. So she had a lot of opposition to enter into the field that she's in. On top of that, also more opposition to be getting taken seriously. So I can actually see the justification behind why her character went to such extreme methods. Are they wrong? Yes, but that's only if you don't have a clinical mindset. There was a very awesome moment between her and Brooke where she's like, honey, you're just my lab rat. And anyone who's in a science experience where, you've dissected a dead animal, you're taught that you have to remove the emotional attachment and get the scientific mind. So she's justifying all this, I think. I don't think she's necessarily a bad person. I think she's got an effed up past that we're going to find out about later.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Talk about the promo.
Right? The promo. But I think that we're going to see a change and a shift in this character. And I think she started to see her plan unravel a little bit with all of the catalysts for change in the form of Ramirez and Montana. And it was like, there's so many plans going on at this camp that it's going to be interesting to watch this character fall apart.
Oh, totes my goats. Yeah, that's going to be fascinating. Angelica Ross has been fantastic in the role. So I'm here for everything Donna Chambers. Don't call her Rita. So let's talk about the Freddy versus Jason moment of the episode. So earlier in the episode, Montana fills our Night Stalker in on the fact that Mr. Jingles, yes, the Mr. Jingles, is at the camp, and how basically Richard Ramirez is going to have to take him out, because if not, Jingles is going to fuck up Montana's plan for Brooke. And so Richard Ramirez is really excited about the fact that he's going to be able to take down, a fellow serial killer and that sort of thing. And we see him prepare by doing some sort of satanic type of ritual. Maybe Madison can fill us in on that at some point. All I know is when you hear echoes of Satan, 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 something satanic is happening.
Amityville.
Yes, I know, right? Something satanic is going on when you hear that. And so we have our showdown. It's serial killer versus serial killer. Richard Ramirez is like in awe of Jingles for a moment, but then he's like, shit's going down. Even though Jingles is like, you really don't want to fuck with me. And so they get into it. There's a fight. Las Vegas was placing their bets. And if you placed your bets on Richard Ramirez, even though he is a real life figure, you would have lost. Because Jingles did end up getting the upper hand and the upper branch. And it went right through the back of Ramirez's neck and through his mouth.
Talk about deep throat.
Yes. Yeah. That's what happened to the poor real Rita, too. Except she got ored. So, we'll talk about the very tail end in a moment and see how that affects. This is a hint for Madison. So let's talk about the actual fight. What did you all think of the fight? Did you think we would get it so soon? We sort of talked a little bit about it when Margaret was doing her thing with Richard Ramirez way back in episode 2. We kind of felt like there was something that was going to happen, that it was going to be Jingles versus Ramirez at a certain point. What do we think of the actual fight that we saw? And, I should also say that while they're fighting, not Rita and Montana are fighting as well. And Brooke does manage to escape because she was caught in a little net type of situation. Vinny, I'll start off with you. What did you think of the Ramirez versus Jingles fight?
So this scene kind of feeds into the one biggest pet peeve I have about this all happening during the night. There were moments where I was like, wait, who the hell is fighting who? What's going on? I can't exactly see because it's so dark. Obviously I was able to really see who was doing what, but I would have liked to see this with a little bit more illumination.
Yeah. You have to watch this season truly with the lights off. Yeah.
Yeah. And in my bedroom, because I like burn incense and, whatever, I have a layer of like slight film on my TV that no matter how many times I try to wipe it, it won't go away. So when I had the lights on, there's a little bit of a glare and I had to turn the lights off during this scene because I was like, wait, what's going on? I was a little bit underwhelmed by the initial fight. The weird part that buying the transition of like Ramirez seemed like he basically seemed like he was trying to flatter and seduce Jingles, but like, dude, you're a legend. You're awesome. I totally bromanced you, dude. I love being a killer. And then he transitions into his, but wait, no, I need to make my own legend. You're not going to have this. It kind of reminded me of like this Robin Williams stand-up he does where he talks about how cats, the moment that like they want something, they pee on it. It was kind of like a pissing match. It was literally like Brooke's just sitting there chilling up in the net. Not Rita's in the woods watching, and these two guys are like, no, it's my victim. No, it's mine. I did like how Jingles had that one ominous statement where he's like, you don't want to do this. But it was very ominous. It was like, you don't want to do this. And they got into it. And the end of it, I loved. I loved watching Ramirez get the stake of the tree branch through the back of his head. It was very symbolic because he is a big mouth. He's very pretentious. He's very blustery. And I thought it was really fitting that the tree branch went straight up through his throat as penance for what he did to real Rita. The Montana and Donna fight I loved it. I've been wanting to see Donna actually have to get her hands dirty because it goes back to how she's trying to be a clinical observer. And the catalyst that I mentioned in this case was Montana coming in and ruining her observation of this exchange and forcing her to become part of the experiment as opposed to an observer. And her frustration was very evident. And I love the cliche of like two girls having a dynasty-style cat fight and rolling down a hill. All that was missing was them suddenly being in a pit of mud and continuing to wrestle. But it was very, very well done. I like this part because we're finally starting to see the paradigms that are happening really start crossing over into each other. And where they're going to go is going to be incredibly interesting because obviously it is a stairway to disaster.
Yes, although it would not have been penance for Real Rita's death because Jingles killed Real Rita.
Oh, that's right. I stand corrected. Thank you.
Yes, so Jingles enjoys the phallicness of his kills.
He
apparently.
has an oral fixation.
Yes, there you go. Madison, what about you? What did you think of the fight? What did you think of, well, both of the fights that were going on? And were you surprised that Brooke managed to escape? Is she the final girl?
Honestly, I'll be kind of upset if she is the final girl because like she's becoming like such a damsel in distress. A little annoying too.
It is very 80s though, so it's really
yes.
fitting in.
See, but at this point,
with,
everything
like,
is so
the
cliche.
motif.
You know? So like to me, this fight, cliche. The girl fight, cliche.
I know.
Running
All I could
away
look
with,
at
like-
was the leopard print, and I'm like, this is so
Right?
fucking insane.
Like, as much as I like it, I admit that it is a total cliche that I've seen done thousands of times over the years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think it was good. Like, I don't know. Like, Richard Ramirez dying surprised me a little bit, but at the same time, like, I knew he was no match for Jingles, like size-wise and everything like that. Also, I always think, like, because Richard Ramirez is a real person, like, he's a real serial killer. So the fact that we're treating him just like a character is, like, kind of crazy, because he is a real serial killer and did such horrific crimes. So, like, us demeaning him in such this way is, like, insane to me to think like that. But, yeah, so him dying was pretty interesting in the way he died. But then the whole time I was like, but he can't die. Like,
Right?
but I'm like, but he can't die. That doesn't clue into like real life. So I wonder if they're going to be factual with his actual storyline in life, like in real life, or if they're just going to play it up in different ways. So we'll see.
It's interesting that you say that because the moment that he died, I actually looked over at my boyfriend and I'm like, wait, that's not right. Because I'm like, if he's actually
Exactly.
dead, then because at first I tied it to the continuity of Hotel. You know, how we know he lives long enough to become a middle-aged man, to be a ghost, and he shows in the hotel. But then I was like, wait, but even more so, if they're really killing him and we're meant to view this as factual, if he's dead, then we know this is something within something else because that didn't really happen in the real world. He lived much longer.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is hella fascinating. It is hella fascinating. And you know what? We're going to continue with this storyline because there's just something that happens at the tail end. And since we're talking about Richard Ramirez, we might as well talk about it right now. So, not Rita comes to and clearly sort of shooketh over what happened. She got knocked out during the fight with Montana and that sort of thing. And as she's coming to, she's there to witness the resurrection of Richard Ramirez. So he floats, his eyes turn black, we hear Satan, 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 Satan. And, his wounds heal and all that kind of stuff. And he's back. They're cackling in the middle of the woods.
Can I say something? When Rita and
Not Rita.
Richard Ramirez started floating up.
No,
I
Rita
thought
did
that
not
they
float
were-
up.
They were both
What?
dead and coming back to life.
I thought that they were both coming back as ghosts.
No, Rita did
Me
not
too.
float up.
I know she didn't, Jeffrey.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying when she
But this
woke
No, 'cause you
up.
said
became
when
so
Rita
dark,
floated
I couldn't
up.
tell if Rita was killed earlier or not.
Same. So I know she was hit in the head, but I didn't know if she was just knocked out or killed. So when she woke up and then Richard Ramirez all of a sudden started floating, I'm like, oh my God, are they both ghosts now? So questions. But yeah, definitely I'm here for the Satan part, obviously.
Clearly.
Yeah.
So, do we think... Well, one of two things. Do we think he's a ghost, like Jonas-style ghost? Or do we think whatever his little satanic ritual was before the killing or the fight happened, do we think maybe that's what has brought him back to life?
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Which one? I said two things, Maddie. You can't say 100% to both.
100% the second one.
Okay, that's
Same.
better.
He's a demon.
Okay. Because we have
get that,
heard
and
like the
we've
Satan
seen this shit
stuff
before.
around him.
Like American Horror Story is not afraid of like the satanic stuff or like hell or purgatory or anything like that. So obviously like him coming back as a demon or, you know, Satan giving him his soul back or whatever, definitely does not surprise me. So
Or maybe he
definitely
doesn't
think
have
they're
a
going
soul.
that route.
Maybe he doesn't have a soul, and so that's why he can come back. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Like he could be
Exactly.
a disciple and that kind of thing.
Disciple's exactly it. He's painted himself as a dedicated disciple of Satan. And in the beginning of the season, I mean, obviously this is a very green Richard Ramirez, who I got the impression he's obviously very early in his murderous career. And I think that up until that moment, he had never really found himself in a position where he was vulnerable before until he met Brooke. And now Brooks brought him to this place of desperation. And the little ritual he was interrupted doing was offering his blood to the ground. He was trying to channel something and open up some kind of conduit or gateway or something directly to Satan so he could receive a demonic blessing. And from all of my studies into stuff like this, he is pretty much a willing vessel for whatever dark force decides to take up root within him. And I think what we saw was him returning back, getting his soul back to a degree, but also being instilled with some kind of nightmarish demonic power, which I also thought was ironic because the season also has Cody Fern, and it kind of gave me flashbacks of him as, you know, the Antichrist. But the black eyes, I associate it, because I think we were talking about Supernatural before this podcast. I associate black eyes with a demon because I've watched Supernatural for so many years. So I'm curious if he's fully possessed or if he's still the Richard character, but now he's like Super Saiyan serial killer a la Dragon Ball Murder.
Well, there you go. I like it. I'm here for it all. And look, Maddie, we have someone else that's well-versed in the satanic arts. So it's not just you, Madison.
Yeah.
Madison has books that she reads late at night.
Oh my god.
You
I
do.
do
You sent
not.
me pictures of the books.
Oh my god. It's like Mean Girls / The Exorcist. Totally different.
No, maybe The Craft. Shout out to The Craft.
Anywho.
Yeah,
As much as
Madison
I
has
hate
no
that,
idea
so
what
much
The
wrong.
Craft is. She's too young. Madison, go watch The Craft. It's good. It might give you ideas.
Before the remake comes out.
Oh wait, there's a remake?
Oh yeah, they're rebooting it.
Oh, okay. That might be interesting. I don't mind a reboot. I don't mind a remake. I don't mind a revival. If it's done well, it's done well. But we veered off into a very different territory. So
Yeah, we could keep going and we shouldn't.
yeah, we probably should. Yeah, we probably should not. Okay, so the other huge reveal that we got in this episode was the truth of what happened at Camp Redwood way back 14 years ago. It is a very odd number, 14. You know what I'm saying? Like, whenever they say it, I'm like, 14, that's just a weird number. But 14 years ago, in the year 1970, so, you know the flashes that we've seen, we kind of always assumed that Margaret was like one of the kids, but no, she was one of the counselors, which kind of makes a little bit more sense. She was one of the counselors. She was a little goody two-shoes. She was getting bullied by the other counselors because she's such a goody two-shoes, little church girl. But she does have a friend. She has an ally. His name is Benji, who makes her a little bear carving thingy and everything. And they clearly have a little something going on. She's a little church girl, so she isn't going to do anything. But she's sucking on his bloody finger. Clearly, he's got, let's say, at least a crush, maybe, on her. And she's like, are you willing to do anything for me? And are you willing to protect me? And all that sort of thing. But one night, when I guess the counselors took things a little too far, Margaret snaps, like the women on that TV show snapped, that like they do. And she slaughters them all. And we even see now from the POV of that girl that we saw in the pilot, it was Margaret that was stabbing her in the damn face. And because Benji did not protect her, that's why she decides to make him the fall guy in the whole murder of that night, the murder, death, kill. And so she had heard about the stories about the war and that sort of thing, and so that's why she chopped the ears off, put him on a little necklace, framed him for it. Clearly she had to chop her own ear off too, so that she could seem like she's the final survivor and that sort of thing. And that's what happened. And because he had gone through like electroshock therapy and that sort of thing, he was basically tortured into believing that he had done it, even though he can't remember it. And so the reason why he was killing and that sort of thing, well, he felt like he needed to kill the final girl, the final survivor, but he was also just beaten sort of into submission because he had been told for all those years that he was evil. He was born evil, that he did it. And so now, he was almost at a, I don't know what you would call it, like a moral impasse. Like, what have I done? What have I been doing? Like, I thought I was doing this because I was a monster, but no, you made me do it. And so when he tries to kill Margaret, she ends up shooting him. Pow pow. So let's stop here. There's more stuff that happens. We'll get into that in a moment. Let's talk about the revelation. So we've been talking about this, I feel like, since episode 1. Like, was she involved? Was it her? This, that, or the other. And we finally got the actual information as to what happened that night and how she was able to frame Benji. Maddie, talk to me about it.
Actually didn't surprise me at all, like, because we've been talking about her being the one who kind of did everything, so it didn't surprise me. I felt really, really bad, that Mr. Jingles, didn't actually do anything, but now he is a killer, so that must be really twisted, but yeah, I wasn't surprised at all that...
Very twisty.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised at all that she was the one who actually killed everyone.
Maddie didn't get it. He also played Twisty the Clown. Vinny, what about you? What did you think of the revelation of it all?
Bitter party of one is me. My overall reaction was, really? Come on. Because it was so obvious from the first episode. I was really, I called it, like... And I sound like such an arrogant jackass because I keep talking about things I've called before, but I remember talking about Pavlov and dogs and bells and conditioning as it was with Jingles, and I really didn't want to be right because I was hoping that this would be something that I'd be like, okay, I was wrong because this season's given us a lot of surprises. And it just seemed like this was the most obvious one. The moment I saw Margaret, I'm like, that is one sneaky bitch. I don't like her. This craziness in her, that she was probably the one that killed everybody. So this is probably the one part of the episode that I was really disappointed with because I wanted it not to be that. I wanted to be surprised. But like Maddie said, the one part that I did like was when Jingles discovered that, you could honestly kind of get the vibe of this person having this driving mission suddenly just completely drained out of them, and the fight kind of going out and then the anger coming in. I enjoyed the acting in that regard and that part of the story, but I really wanted to be surprised by Margaret and have it be something else. So when it actually all came into play, I was just kind of a little bit of bitterly meh.
Well, not to deflate your ego, but you were wrong if you were saying that Jingles was conditioned to kill, in a sense. I mean, it wasn't.
Well,
It wasn't.
Doctor.
Well, even that, I wouldn't even interpret it almost that way either. I would say. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's a mixture of that and then Margaret's framing, definitely. But
Well,
like
yeah,
the scene with the
Margaret.
doctor where
Yeah.
she was like, "You're evil, but you don't know what you are." Like, it was just so obvious that they were going that route. But yeah, no, I mean, not 100% because she definitely set him up a lot of it. But over the
Yeah.
years since then, they kind of made him believe he was that thing that she set him up as. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like the reveal, so I'm the complete opposite. I didn't mind it. I know that we sort of figured it out very early on, but it was still really good. They did a really good job explaining it. I am really liking Leslie Grossman's interpretation of Margaret. I mean, she clearly knows what type of show she's on. She knows that this is like the slasher season, so she's giving me those like 80s vibes, like with everything that she's doing, and I'm really loving it. I like that she was the one to take out Jingles, sort of like the loose dangling thread, and how that's going to benefit her in the end. I think that's fascinating. The confession was really interesting. The flashbacks were really well done as well. I don't know, I liked it. I was totally here for everything about it, even though we did predict it. And it was like the most obvious way that they were heading, but it was still really well done, I would say. So, continuing on. So, throughout the episode, you know, we know from like even the previous episode that our survivors, they were thinking about Birdie and they were thinking about Margaret. Like, we need to save Margaret. We need to save Margaret. I don't know why you need to save her, especially because we know way more than they know. But they're like, we need to save Margaret. And so Trevor is like, I'll go get Margaret and we're going to get the hell out of here. And so he goes and they hear the gunshots, and that's when he goes to like see her. And he's like, oh my God, you killed Jingles. You have no idea what's been going on, this, that, or the other, and everything, and we need to go, and you just saved the day, and that sort of thing. And she's like, yeah, I did. And you know what else? You were Jingles's final victim. And he's like, huh? And she guts him like a fish and chops. Wait, she does chop his ear off, right?
Didn't she? No, she
Yes.
didn't shoot him first.
No.
She stabbed him in the ear, yeah.
Yeah.
Stabbed
She
him,
Stabbed
and then
him.
stabbed him.
And stabs him and ears him and all that kind of stuff. And then she ends up. Does she put the body in the car or does she light the car on fire? Just light the car on fire.
I think she
I
just
don't
lit the
even-
car on fire.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't even think she moves him.
Okay, and so then because they're going to the car, Blake's car, the dude from way back in episode 2, they discover that his car is still there, and that's their means to get out and to escape from the camp. She goes and she lights the car on fire, and she's there with everybody, you know, playing the victim and that kind of thing. What did you all think of Trevor's death? Did you expect Trevor to die? Were you surprised? Did this death make an impression on you?
I was like, no, Mr. Schuster, no.
Right.
He's not Mr. Schuster anymore.
Pissed off. I really hope he doesn't die, just like somebody else who didn't die, Mr. Jingles.
Well,
'Cause
yeah, I
when she
did
does
not
turn
mention
around,
that,
he's
but
gone.
yeah, she
Yeah,
turns around and
but
his body's gone. But
so
there's
I
a whole lot
hope
of
that
blood.
he's not actually dead. I hope he's not actually dead because I feel like there's still so much more that I wanted to see from him as a character. Um, but yeah, not gonna be too happy if he's actually dead.
Same. After the Michael Myers type disappearance of Mr. Jingles, I was almost kind of hoping that we would pan back from the burning car to see like his eyes open and Trevor stand back up, because I feel like there was definitely more. I want that moment where he like she's playing the victim to everybody and he comes out and he's like, no, she's a crazy bitch. She did this. But I sadly got the impression that he's dead, because she like not only stabbed him, she like stabbed him, then went up past the Texaco, made a left and then made a U-turn and came back down to the groin. Like it was intense. So I'm very sad if he's actually gone, because I would have liked to see more, because that was a character that really didn't get a lot of development. So looking in retrospect, he was kind of set up to just be fodder for a killer. And I really wish that wasn't the case.
I feel like he's dead. He might return as a ghost, because clearly there's the Jonas of it all. But I feel like he is dead. Jingles, on the other hand, is out there doing something. I don't know what he's going to be doing. Maybe he's going to look for that sand that Richard Ramirez was playing with and try to patch himself up with some of the satanic goo that's on the ground. I don't know. But that's fascinating that they did pull a Michael Myers. They pulled a Jason Voorhees where, it looks like he died, but he's not dead. So I wonder how they're going to explain that away. And yeah, but Trevor's gone. Like, she gutted him, like, big time, bigly.
But there is a moment I feel we need to discuss briefly. And that's, even though I didn't like the reveal with Margaret, the moment when she's gutting Mr. Schuster, I'm sorry, Trevor, and she's talking about, I thought I was going to bring the Jesus to everyone and be a good little girl, but having my knife in your gut and feeling this, and she just had this like really intense moment where she basically put on the serial killer slippers and flannel coat and was like, I'm comfy in the blood and guts of everyone else. It was really well played on Leslie's part.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. Maddie, do you have a response to that? Especially since in the first episode you were like, I'm not really feeling her.
Yeah, no, I still don't. I'm not liking it. Still don't like it, but I loved it when she's like, oh, you don't understand, like, there's children coming in the morning, and it's like, bitch, what the
right?
Enough with the kids.
I know, right? I wonder if there are kids coming in the morning.
I wonder.
She keeps on mentioning them, but
or like she wanted the kids to come so she could kill all of them. Imagine.
No, I don't think she would have killed the kids. I do
welcome
think
to Camp Redwood. Just drink the Kool-Aid.
I do think she'll kill all the adults, though. But fascinating nonetheless. We didn't talk about him just because he's laying on a cot somewhere. But we
Chet.
do have Chet, who's miraculously still alive after being impaled by a not-so-sharp piece of wood. So he is allegedly alive somewhere in I guess it was the infirmary, with a sheet over his body. Do we think he's going to survive? Actually, you know what? This leads to the question that I want to ask everybody. Who do we think will survive the night?
I don't know.
Oh, God. Yeah, like every episode, I feel like my opinion on that changes.
Well,
I'm going to be
tomorrow,
a pessimist.
not tomorrow, but next week's
Oh.
episode will be the final episode of the night. The episode after that is the survivors coping with what happened during the previous night, aka these past, what will be 5 episodes. So this is our sort of final chance to pick the final girls, boys.
I feel like because we talked about this previously, how Chet was billed originally as Brooke's love-in. They actually called him her boyfriend at one point. I think him getting impaled and then being somewhere off scene right now in the infirmary, he's kind of off the radar of the killers. As much as I don't want Brooke to be the final girl unless she has a personality shift, I almost wonder if it's going to kind of be like almost everybody but them dies and it's her and Chet. And that's how he becomes her love interest, is they bond over the experience.
Okay, that's interesting. I could see both of them surviving the night, and I think the third one will be Montana. I do think she will
No,
survive.
I think Montana is gonna get so fucked, and
Right?
then Xavier is gonna survive because he's already been like screwed up. Like he's
Oh,
already had to go.
yeah, Xavier. I completely forgot
Yeah,
about
Yeah.
him.
so I think
Xavier.
Xavier, and
Okay.
then
Chet and Brooke and Montana's gonna die.
yeah,
I feel like Montana has to die because I just want it to happen. At this point,
No,
I
I
want
don't
to
mind
see
that.
what they do.
I like that idea because if they do like the whole idea of a new generation of killers are trying to continue on the tradition of Camp Redwood, and they introduce ghosts, and the ghosts are helping the survivors that lived, I could see Montana being one of the ghosts that, because of everything that she had done, like she could be a ghost on the side of good versus some of the other characters that might be more so on the side of working with, like let's say the evil ghosts, if they do something like
Yeah.
that. I could see Montana wanting to atone.
Yeah, and the thing with Montana, I have to admit, is she threw me a couple times this episode because the character is such a not Billy Lord, but obviously it speaks to her, but Montana as a person is a very, very convincing actor. When she ran up and was like, "Oh my God, Brooke, you're in a net. Oh my God," it didn't sound like that. It was convincing. It was like legitimate. Like I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, so is she pretending, or is she pretending with Richard because she didn't want him to kill her, so she's sleeping with him so she doesn't die, and she's making him think that she wants him to kill this girl. So, and I know it's ridiculous to think that far into it, but the way that she ran up to the net and like it almost seemed like, okay, maybe she is good or she's feeling bad now that she sees. There were a couple of moments where I can actually kind of see something like if she wasn't acting, how that could, what you just said, could work out. Or at the same time, I could see her as being kind of a ghost that's like, you know what, I'm stuck here. I don't like it. I'm pissed that things didn't go the way that I wanted. So I'm going to pretend that I'm a good ghost and I'm going to F you all up.
Well, we will find out in one episode. I'm excited. Yeah, we're finally going to end this night, and we're going to move into a new chapter, which should be very, very interesting. Any final thoughts on the episode as a whole? Was there anything else that, was there anything that I missed that you all want to discuss? Even a small little moment before we head into the MVP?
Xavier and Jingles on the bridge.
Oh, yes. That was a teeny tiny little moment.
Yeah,
where,
it was interesting. I don't know what to take from that. Like, was Jingles, because this was after everything with Margaret, and he was obviously very deflated.
Mm-hmm. Did he feel bad?
And
Almost.
yeah, exactly. And I couldn't tell. And then the whole thing with like Xavier, I'm assuming what I took as happening was Xavier passed out from the pain, and that's why it framed into Brooke waking him up the next second. And it was almost like a fake out to make you think Jingles is actually a ghost or something and disappeared. I think he just passed out. But that scene was weird and it was very random. So I was almost wondering what the significance of that might be.
Yes, because I wonder if going forward, if Jingles won't necessarily be a killer, but Jingles will clearly want revenge on Margaret. So will he
Yeah.
still kill others to achieve that revenge, or will he be hell bent on killing Margaret and maybe saving the rest of the people from Margaret in a sense?
Yeah, it's going to be like Mortal Kombat. It's going to be very, very intense and interesting.
Toasty. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into it. It's time for the MVP, the most valuable player. State which character impressed you throughout the episode and why. Once a character has been chosen, they cannot be selected again. So, choose wisely. Maddie Fitz, our own Madison Montgomery. Who's your MVP?
I'm gonna go with Miss Birdie for saving my dear, dear, sweet, sweet, sweet Antichrist in the oven. And just being the gem that she is, and she died heroically. And Godspeed, Birdie.
Well, there you go. The Antichrist in the oven. Sounds like a delicious Halloween dessert.
Hell yeah.
Vinny, what about you? Your MVP, and why?
This is a tough one, but I think I'm going to go with Miss Donna. She just really, the whole thing with her elaborate. I mean, obviously this woman went to massive lengths and digging that pit, setting the bear trap, Maddie.
Lord.
The other trap. She went to these like elaborate schemes of an obsessive compulsive scientist trying to set up the perfect experiment, and I'm really looking forward to watching it all fall apart and watching this character spiral from being on the side of the baddies adjacent to them to suddenly probably finding herself thrust into the position of the victim that she wanted to study so badly. So yeah, definitely Donna.
A bear trap. You need to tell your parents about that one, Maddie. They'll get a kick out of that.
See, what I want to know is, Madison, if you were in this season, how long would it take you to fall into one of those traps?
Pretty quickly. I feel. But for me, I'd be on a canoe right now. I'd be like, bye.
Oh, she does love herself
Bye.
a canoe. Yeah.
Right? I'd find a canoe or a motorboat or something.
Yeah,
Okay.
everyone's like, we need to get on a cart. Hello, a canoe,
Right.
there's a boat, like, let's go.
Well, also,
I don't
I don't
think
really
the children's a good
understand the idea of just run. Like,
Yeah.
run away. Like, not even
But
through the
that's-
forest, because through the forest
Yeah.
maybe there are traps, bear traps, and things of that nature. Like, run on the road. There is a paved road that we see that cars are driving on. Run all the way down. Or even walk.
But that
Sprint.
what was it?
A brisk
Donna
walk.
said she with Brooke. There was that moment where she was like, "Girl, safety in numbers. If you would just kept down that way, you would have hit the road. You would have been out of here." It's like a microcosm type of trope for these movies where there's did you guys ever watch the show The Dome, where that dome came down
Oh,
over the
yes.
city?
Yeah.
Yes.
Within the slasher genre, and even not even extending it to the horror genre, there is a trope of these characters existing in a micro world where there's some kind of like stupidity in them that causes them to be like lemmings and stick together even if they're separate within the area. It's like there's some imaginary wall that for whatever reason they can't allow logic and reality to allow them to run away from the central location where all this danger is happening. And I think it was an interesting homage to the 80s horror movie, because if you think about it, a lot of the movies back then, the same thing could have been said. It's like, really, Laurie Strode could have just gotten in a car and left Haddonfield and gone to Bermuda, and Michael probably would not have found her for a very long time. The kids at Crystal Lake, they probably could have gone very far, and Jason, until later entries in the series would have found him. But yeah, I see it as an interesting homage to how stupid the people in these movies are.
This is true. So both of you had really great choices for MVP. I am going to give it to Montana because of everything actually that Vinny said, and it was something that I noticed throughout the episode as well. Billie Lourd is killing it this season. Like, everything about her in this episode, everything about, I should say, Montana in this episode was really fascinating. I just found Montana to be a really interesting character, and she was already an interesting character. But the added layers in this episode just, sort of took things to like the nth degree, and I really liked everything that they did with Montana in this episode, and Billie Lourd is killing it. I mean, she's trying to kill it, but she is killing it. Like, and I mentioned this, I think it might have been our first podcast, that she isn't playing sort of like the similar type of character that she's played in previous seasons. And it's really fascinating. I'm enjoying seeing her grow as an actor. And
Yeah, I think she's proving that she can anchor, because she's usually in supporting roles. I mean, in Scream Queen, she was kind of a major character, but she was still to the side of Emma Roberts. This season, we're seeing a lot of these characters kind of have to step up to the plate to take on some meatier roles and outside their comfort zone, maybe. And I think that Billie Lourd is definitely proving that she could be the figurehead of a season, and I would totally be here for the entire thing.
yeah, absolutely. And it's gonna sound maybe sacrilegious to like say this, but I, as much as I enjoy them, and as much as I do miss like everyone that's no longer a part of American Horror Story, at least the people that have taken a break from this season, like I don't really miss Sarah Paulson and Evan Peters because we have really great actors filling really great roles. Like, am I sort of
Yeah.
in my mind like maybe trying to guess like who Sarah Paulson would play, who Evan Peters would play, Angela Bassett, Jessica Lange, Kathy Bates, Adina Porter, etc., etc., etc. Sure, but do I miss them? Miss them? Not really, just because this season has been really great and the cast has been really good, and the newbies are really good, and the veterans that maybe weren't necessarily front and center in previous seasons, now that they are front and center, I mean they've been really good as well. So it's been a pretty awesome season.
Agreed. I think it's for a series like this being an anthology, it's kind of nice to have, the Lang of it all, the Evan and the Paulson and Adina, as much as I enjoyed them, it's time for some new blood because you really start to be able to predict the type of character that they're going to play, at least to some degree. And in the past few seasons, I haven't really been as surprised by who they play as I am with this season and seeing what these newbies can do. And I like the element of surprise and not being able to necessarily predict it.
Absolutely. So now it is time to rate the episode. How would you rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10 keys? The point system is allowed. If you found the episode exceptional, deserving of more than a 10, you may grant it the coveted golden key, and yes, you may jingle it. Maddie Fitz?
I'm going to give the episode a solid 8. I think it was really, really good, but I think that it could have been a little bit better. Definitely twists and turns are continuing, and I hope we get to see a lot more.
All right, we start off with a solid 8 from Maddie Fitz. Vinny, what about you?
I am going to agree with Maddie, actually, and continue with an 8. There was a lot of revelations in this episode. There were some pacing issues, though, and obviously we're dealing in the constrictions of a one-night event taking place over multiple episodes, and, a lot of things do have to happen, but some of it I would have liked more time to explore if it is happening like a roller coaster. So as much as I do enjoy it, I do kind of feel like it could have been done better in some areas. So I think an 8 is a really solid score.
So we've got 2 8s. No surprise here. I will bump it up just a little bit. I'm going to give it a 9. I liked it. I feel like this entire season is going to be a very rewatchable season just because it is so fast-paced. But it's fast-paced for me, at least, in a good way. It keeps things really interesting, and it's moving the plot along. And it makes sense because it does take place over the course of a night, so it should feel fast-paced. Like, there shouldn't be moments of
Touche.
calm. And so there you go. So I liked it. And the revelations were really good. The character turns were fascinating. The surprises at the end were really well done. So I was fully satisfied. And I mean, let's be real. The difference between an 8 and a 9 isn't that much. We're sort of splitting hairs with the rating system. I'll be honest, I think anything above an 8, when you go 8, 9, and 10, it's really just, whatever it is that you want to justify it with. So I feel like we're all on the same page. So another solid hour of American Horror Story. And on that note, join us next time for a brand new installment of Are You Afraid 1984. Once again, here's our announcer to remind you on how you can interact with us.
Like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/PCR. Are You Afraid? Follow us on Tumblr. Are You Afraid? -ahs.tumblr.com. Follow Poppy Chulo Radio on social media. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, and YouTube at Poppy Chulo Radio. Do you have any questions, suggestions, comments, or concerns? Email us via contact@poppychuloradio.com. Help support Poppy Chulo Radio financially by visiting gofundme.com/poppychuloradio. Are you interested in joining the Poppy Chulo Radio team as an on-air personality or blog contributor? Email talent@poppychuloradio.com. Binge listen to your favorite Poppy Chulo Radio programs by visiting poppychuloradio.com/archives. You can also download tonight's broadcast and the rest of the series through Apple Podcasts and Google Play. Just search for Are You Afraid? 1984 and subscribe.
Thanks, announcer. My co-hosts, please wish the listeners a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Good night.
Thanks for tuning in. Download new episodes of Are You Afraid 1984 every Friday via Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and the Poppy Chulo Radio archives. Good night.